Hello. Hope you're well. Hope you had a good Sunday. But you may be watching this on a Wednesday, but still, I hope you've had a good Sunday. Every so often on a Sunday, I like to have a little chat about something. And I thought we'd talk about the two companies that I've mentioned a few times in videos about their help after the warranty has run out. And there's a reason why I'm stating that maybe if you're spending a lot of money and you're only going to get a 1 year's warranty, you should shop around. These two are not the best two companies in the UK to purchase TVs from. And I'm strictly talking about TVs here. Both these companies sell millions of different electronic items and non-electronic items. I'm quite simply talking about TVs and the 12-month warranty and the Sales of Goods Act 2015. It's really important. I think we can sum up both these companies with one word. Not that one. They're convenient. These companies are convenient. If an appliance breaks down and you need a new appliance, you can jump in the car. I mean, I live in the middle of nowhere, the back of beyond, but I can drive to one of those companies. No, I can drive to both of them now within 25 minutes, and that is convenient. Now, online, the internet is very convenient, but sometimes you have to wait days, weeks, maybe months or something. And if you need something desperately, they are convenient, and that's why people go there. Ask yourself this question: if you're going to be making a purchase from these two vendors before Christmas, how long do you want it to last? Are you happy with you've got a year's warranty, and if it keeps you going through that? Or are you seriously thinking to yourself, well, I've got a year's warranty, but I know it's going to last 5 or 6 years. I'll probably get 10 years out of this. Because that's not necessarily true. Now, the problem stems from two particular TV manufacturer models over the last couple of years that have caused grief. And I admit it's caused grief not just for the customers, but it's caused grief for the vendors as well, because these have been failing in their thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands, maybe millions across the world. With Samsung, it's the TUs. And some of the AUs now have been failing after a couple of years. And when I say failing, customers bring it to us after the warranty, but we can't repair them. It needs a new screen. It needs a new panel. And new panels are, well, for a 50-inch, £400 plus VAT plus fitting. It's just a ridiculous amount of money. You can buy a new one for £290. So the only people that ever do get screens replaced, and people do get them replaced, it's when they've been accidentally smashed and it's claimed on the house insurance. There's also a Vestel machine, which is badged Hitachi, which has got HK in the model number. If you've got a Hitachi HK, odds are you probably haven't. Most of them have failed and disappeared by now. But a lot of these, and I mean hundreds and hundreds of these, have ended up on the workbench here. Customers have brought them to us hoping that we could repair, and unfortunately 9 times out of 10 we can't. So then we offer help because we understand the Sales of Goods Act, and the Sales of Goods Act, of course, is there to help you after you've spent a decent amount of money. And again, that's the caveat. We're looking, if you spent £100, then be happy with the 12 months warranty and be done with it. Bring it to us after it fails and we'll charge 40, 50 quid and get it working for a few more years. But you're not going to make a claim under the Sales of Goods Act under that provision. But if you've spent north of £300, between £300 and £2,000, that's a lot of money. And these TVs that have been failing after 13 months, 14 months, you can understand why customers have been getting pretty irate. So the Sales of Goods Act states that you've got a certain amount of time, 6 years on certain goods, where you should claim that the TV should still work. And that's where both these vendors are not very customer friendly. They've been ignoring the Sales of Goods Act to some of my customers after we've done the report, and that's terribly unfair. So let's just start with Argos. I mean, Argos and Currys are under the same roof. I'm sure they've got the same owners, but they seem to act differently, which I find very weird. But Argos seem to be okay. If for my customers, after a TV has failed after a year, they've gone back to Argos, complained, and Argos have said, if you get an engineer's report, we'll look into it for you. Maybe that's the first point of a fob off, I don't know. Could be. But some of my customers, of course, then come to me and we charge £75 for an engineer's report. We do a detailed report with photographs and what the problem is. They go back to Argos and Argos have fulfilled it. They've been quite good. But there's an argument in the Sales of Goods Act 2015 that do you need to come to an engineer? Where does it say that in the Sales of Goods Act? You know, TV is 14 months old. I spent £600 on it. I shouldn't have to go and spend £75 with an engineer. So that's a good argument. But Argos, after they've got the paperwork from us, after they've got the written report, usually do a deal with the customer. I don't know what that deal is. On certain occasions, they've actually reimbursed the £75. They show the receipt that we've given them and they've had that back. So it is worth sometimes just genning up on the Sales of Goods Act 2015, making sure you know a little bit about it. And if you do have a problem after a year, just stand your ground. You don't really need to come to an engineer, but it does help you if you have a written report, and it stops a lot of the argy-bargy. Here in Britain, we don't like it. We like cups of tea and cheese and onion sandwiches. We don't like confrontation. And Currys, to a certain extent, were very similar with that. They would originally state, go and get an engineer's report and we'll see what we can do. But last year, after I'd written a few reports, I got customers coming back to me saying they're not accepting them. They're not accepting the reports from you anymore. And I can only believe it's because they had so many returns of the Samsung and the Hitachi problems that they just had to start putting up brick walls and saying we can't deal with this. It is rather important also in the letter that we write that we state if we believe it's a manufacturer's fault. So in other words, if this chip is really failing just after a year on a regular basis, if we're seeing dozens and dozens and dozens, then that's a manufacturer's fault. If it's just an occasional thing here and there, like a fuse blowing, a capacitor bulging, then not necessarily manufacturer's fault. But on those two models that I've mentioned, we have stated that those models have a manufacturer's fault, and that helps both the customer and the vendor, because the vendor then can go back to the manufacturer and say, hang on a minute, this we're proving here that there's a problem, and it does seem to get sorted out. But Currys last year decided to ignore my letters, and they started saying to customers, we're not accepting reports from that company anymore. You have to come to our company. We've got a company that will look at the television for you. Now, whether that's just my local shop that's saying that or whether it's a UK trait, I really don't know. But they were asking £120. So if you were taking a TV that had failed after 12 months, you'd spent north of £300, they'd say to you, yes, we can sort this out. You have to have it looked at by our independent engineers, and they charge £120. Well, people aren't going to pay that. Just seems to me like another fob off, and it doesn't seem fair at all. And the latest one I hear is that they're handing out pamphlets to people that come with faulty goods after the warranty period has expired, and they're saying, ring this telephone number and you'll get help. And that's it. And I still don't think that's good enough. If you've made the trip back to the shop and you want help, you should stay in the shop, in my opinion, and get some help. I'm not too sure what this helpline does, but I don't think, I just see it as another fob off. I wouldn't like it. If I had a TV that failed after 18 months and I'd spent £600-700, I would stay in the shop until it's sorted. So I just wish both those two organisations, really, and I've got nothing personal, no malice against them personally, it's just the customer sales, the after sales. It just seems very poor, especially when it comes to a product that is failing by its hundreds, thousands, hundreds of thousands in some models, the ones that I've just mentioned. So just be aware if you're going to buy something. As I say, they are convenient. Sometimes something breaks and we need something now. And you're going to use those too. But always ask yourself a question. If I'm only getting a year's warranty with this, why? Even if I pay a little bit extra, can you give me a 5 years warranty on this product? And if they say no, sorry, again, ask yourself the question, why? So that's the reason I do have a problem, because there are shops out there like John Lewis, like Richer Sounds, lots of independent Euronic shops. They're normally very good. We don't have a lot of them here in Cornwall, but across the UK, they're normally family-run businesses that take on these franchises, are called Euronics, and most of their products come with a 3 to a 5 year warranty on the televisions. So if some shops can do a 5-year warranty, in some cases 6, why can't all of them? Especially the two that we're talking about. I'm sure they do give warranties on certain televisions, the very expensive ones. But it just seems like the mid-range ones, when it goes faulty and you've lost 500 quid after a year, that seems unfair. And I just think that their customer after sales, customer service really does need to improve. Hey, it may have done over the last few months. So that's the reason I have a bit of a gripe, because one of those companies have turned around and said, we're not accepting any reports from that business anymore. You have to come to our engineers, our independent engineers. And it doesn't state that in the Sales of Goods Act 2015. And the Sales of Goods Act 2015 is really good for you. It's there to help the customer. So if you're going to be buying something, whether it's a TV or anything, it's well worth having a look at how the Sales of Goods Act works and how it can support you, because one day you'll really need it. And being genned up on that will help you when you go back to the shop, because it does seem like one of those shops in particular likes putting up a wall and stopping you going any further when it comes to trying to get some after-sales customer service. Anyway, so that's the reason why I personally have it's not personal, but why my business has a bit of a problem with those, because they can help more, they can do further, and they can get the television sorted out, but they choose not to, and they choose to put up these walls which shouldn't be there, because the Sales of Goods Act says they shouldn't be there. Anyway, it's almost Christmas. Thanks very much. I've bored you for about 15 minutes now, I think. So thank you very much for watching. I hope that helps, and I hope it gives you an insight into what happens into this business when customers bring the TVs to us and we can't repair them. Or we can, but it's going to cost hundreds. They really need to go back to the shop and sort it out. Again, gen up on the Sales of Goods Act 2015. It sounds boring, and to be honest with you, it is pretty boring, but the day will come when you wish you had. Thanks for watching.